The storm outside raged across the moon's surface, wind and dust slamming against the shelter walls. Inside, a small group of human explorers gathered around a weak heater. Their mission was to recover tech from an abandoned base. What they found instead was her. She didn't speak at first. The alien girl sat in the corner shaking, wrapped in torn fabric. Her skin was gray-green, marked with tiny scales. Her eyes glowed softly, yellow and watchful. Her claws were long but dull. Her name was Virel. She had been hiding in the ruins, alone, starving, injured. No one knew how long she had survived out there. When the crew found her, most stepped back. Some reached for weapons. But the commander, Captain Cole, raised his hand. "No one touches her," he said. "She's not a threat." The others weren't sure, but they obeyed. Later, when the team settled for the night, Cole brought a tray of warm food and walked over to her. "You eat?" he asked, gently placing it down. Virel didn't move. He sat on the floor a few feet away, watching the storm through the thick glass window. "You're not the first alien I've met," he said. "But you might be the first one who looks like she expects us to scream." Still, she said nothing. She kept her hood up, hiding most of her face. An hour passed. The shelter was small, just enough for 4 sleeping rolls. But with the storm too strong, no one could leave. The rest of the team had fallen asleep sitting up. Only Cole stayed awake. He noticed Virel still curled in the corner, cold and awake. He stood, walked over, and unrolled his sleeping bag halfway. "It's warmer near the heater," he said. "And there's room here." She stared at him. Her voice, dry and low, came at last. "You want me near you?" He nodded. "You look frozen." She lowered her head. "My kind and scares yours." Cole shrugged. "So does my reflection in the morning. Doesn't stop me from brushing my teeth." For a long time she didn't move. Then slowly, with small steps, she crawled across the floor and sat on the edge of the sleeping bag. She didn't lie down. She just sat, stiff and still, her tail wrapped around her legs. Cole laid back and looked at the ceiling. "Name's Cole." She was silent. "You don't have to tell me yours, just get some rest." He turned his head the other way, giving her space. The heater hummed softly. For the first time in years, Virel felt something strange. Safety. Hours passed. The storm, outside, began to fade. Inside, the shelter was quiet. Everyone sleeping now, except her. Virel's eyes were still open. She looked down at her hands. Her claws, her rough skin. No one ever let her near before. She was always too different, too sharp, too strange, but this human let her share his space, his warmth, his bedroll. She shifted slightly, lying back just enough to feel the warmth from the heater, and from him. In his sleep, Cole moved. His arm brushed against her shoulder, then rested there, lightly. No fear. No disgust. Just human warmth. Virel froze. Every part of her told her to move, to run. But she didn't. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, she didn't dream of being alone. The storm had passed. But inside the shelter, the air was still tense. Virel sat on a crate in the corner, hood pulled low, hiding her face again. Her claws curled into the fabric of her robe. She hadn't said a word since she woke up. Across the room, Cole stirred a pot of warm food with his multi-tool. The crew had gone outside to check equipment. It was just the two of them now. He looked over. "Still hungry?" Virel didn't answer. He carried the yao bowl to her and set it down slowly. "You didn't scare me last night," he said. "You won't scare me now." She didn't move. Cole sat nearby, not too close, but not far either. "You know," he said, "I've seen a lot of faces. Some prettier than others. Some with teeth in the wrong places. One guy had horns coming out of his cheeks. Great singer, though." Still silence. Cole leaned back. "Whatever's under that hood, I bet it's not half as scary as you think." Virel's claws gripped tighter. She remembered what happened the last time she showed her face. Back on her homeworld, other children screamed. Adults turned away. Even her own kin flinched. Too many scales, they said. Eyes too bright. Too sharp, too wrong. So she hid. For years. Until war took her world and she ran, and now she was here, on the floor of a human shelter with a bowl of food and a strange man who didn't fear her. Finally, her voice came, low and cold. Do not ask again. Cole raised an eyebrow. Ask what? To see my face. He smiled. I didn't. You want to? He shrugged. Yeah, kinda, but only if you want me to. Varel's breathing slowed. She reached up, slowly, and loosened her hood. Bit by bit, the light touched her skin. Gray-green scales shimmered. Thin lines of glowing gold ran down her cheeks. Her face was shaped like a cross between a lizard and a snowcat. Soft fur at the jawline, but long fangs hidden under her lip. One side of her face was scarred. Claw marks, old and deep. She looked down. Cole didn't move. Better than I expected, he said calmly. Varel blinked. You mock me? No, I mean it. He leaned forward. That's a war wound, isn't it? She looked away. Yes. Then it's not ugly, he said. It's proof you survived. For the first time, her shoulders lowered. Varel didn't know what to say. Nobody had ever said that to her. Cole reached down, picked up the food bowl, and held it out again. Eat, he said. Then we'll talk scars. I've got one on my backside that looks like a fish. She looked up slowly. Her mouth twitched, almost a smile. She took the bowl. That night, the shelter was quiet again. This time, when they lay down near the heater, she didn't keep her hood on. She didn't look away. And when Cole closed his eyes, she found herself still watching him, like trying to understand something she had never seen before. Kindness, without fear. The second night on the moon was colder, too cold. The storm had passed, but the generator didn't like the dust. By sundown, the lights flickered and the heater died with a soft hiss. Cole tapped the control panel. Nothing. No heat. That's bad. He glanced at Varel, who sat curled against the wall, her cloak wrapped tight around her shoulders. Her breath came out in soft white clouds. Even her scales were shivering. I'll fix it in the morning, Cole muttered. If we last that long. He pulled out the emergency thermal blanket. It wasn't much. Thin, silver, barely enough for one person. Varel's claws tightened around her cloak. I will be fine. You won't, Cole said. You're cold-blooded. This chill could kill you. I have survived worse. He looked at her. Not with me around. She looked away. Cole spread the blanket on the floor near the wall, then sat down beside it, arms crossed, trying to look casual. You can lie here. I'll sit guard. Varel turned her head slowly. You offer me your space? Yup. She hesitated. We are different. Your kind avoids mine. Not all of us, Cole said. Besides, body heat's body heat. Biology doesn't argue with survival. Varel didn't move. Cole laid back with a slow exhale. I'll be here, if you change your mind. The cold crept deeper. Metal walls turned to ice. The floor bit at her feet. Her scales stung. She tried to ignore it, tried to prove she could endure, but her body started to shake. Her heart slowed. She remembered the silence of the ruins, the cold halls she once crawled through, thinking she would die alone. She looked at Cole again. He hadn't moved. His arm was half under the blanket. The rest of him, exposed to the cold, was trembling too. She stood, quietly, then walked to him, steps soft like wind. She lay down beside him, stiff, awkward, unsure. He didn't flinch, just lifted the blanket slightly and whispered, "You're safe." They lay there shoulder to shoulder. No words, no judgment, only shared warmth. Minutes passed. Then something strange happened. Her claws relaxed, her breathing slowed. For the first time in her life, touch didn't bring fear. She closed her eyes. Then, felt something even stranger, his hand gently brushing her tail aside, not to harm, just to make room for comfort. No fear, no shame, just space for her. Varel whispered, "You are strange." Cole smiled, eyes still closed. Takes one to know one. Later that night, as the cold reached its worst, she slid closer, letting her head rest near his chest, not for survival, but for peace. And in the quiet of the broken shelter, she finally felt like she wasn't something to run from. The heater was finally working again. The cold was gone. But Varel still sat close to Cole, not because she needed warmth anymore, but because something had changed. She didn't say it out loud. She wasn't ready for words like that. She just stayed. Cole was fixing a sensor near the airlock. Wires dangled from the wall. Sparks popped gently as he connected new power. Varel watched from the corner. Her claws tapped the floor. Her eyes followed every move. She should have left the moment she was strong enough. That was always her plan, but now, her body stayed still, and her heart stayed confused. As Cole worked, a sharp metal edge sliced across his palm. "Ah, damn it," he hissed, shaking his hand. Varel jumped up, moving fast. Blood dripped from his fingers. She rushed to him without thinking. He backed up a step. "Wait, Varel, you can't." But it was too late. She grabbed his hand. Time stopped. Varel's heart pounded. Her skin was dangerous, covered in natural acid, a defense from her species. Anyone who touched her bare flesh without protection was burned. It had happened before. Always. She stared at Cole's hand in hers. No burn, no pain, no smoke, nothing, just warmth. Cole blinked. Varel dropped his hand and stepped back fast. She stared at her own palm, then at his. "It didn't hurt you?" He raised his brow. "Should it have?" "Yes," she said, voice shaking. "It always does." She turned away, breathing fast. "No one touches me without bleeding," she whispered. "Not even my kin." Cole sat down, still holding his hand. "Well," he said slowly, "I guess I'm special." She looked at him sharply. "This is not a joke." "I'm not joking," he said. "I mean, maybe your biology changed, or maybe mine's weird, or maybe—" He stood and walked closer. "Maybe I was just meant to." Varel backed into the wall, her claws pressed to her chest. "I've hurt people. Accidentally. Always. Even those who cared." "You didn't hurt me." She looked up. "Why?" Cole didn't have a smart answer this time. He only said, "I don't know." They stood in silence. Then slowly she reached out her hand again. He held it. Still no pain. No damage. Only a soft grip. A connection no science could explain. Later that night, Cole stood at the entrance, looking at the stars. Varel came up beside him. She didn't speak. She just let her fingers brush his arm, and when he didn't move away, she whispered, "I'm not afraid of hurting you anymore." Cole smiled, watching the stars. "Good," he said, "because I'm not afraid of you at all." The quiet didn't last. Outside the shelter, the sky turned red. Solar windstorms were coming, and the crew prepared for launch. But inside the ship, something else was building. Something colder than any storm. Varel found it by accident. She was searching the human database for her homeworld, just to see if anything remained. Then she saw it. Black and white report hidden deep in the system. Operation Scorchvale, human lead strike, alien resistance, 2,100 casualties. Species, Virulin. Her claws froze on the console. There was a video. A human officer giving orders. His voice, calm. His face, younger. Sharper. But familiar. It was Cole. She backed away from the screen like it had burned her. Her breath caught in her throat. The man who shared his warmth. his food, his space. Was once a soldier in the war that killed her people. Later, when he entered the room, she didn't speak. Her hood was back on. Her eyes were cold. "Everything okay?" he asked. She didn't move. "You led the Scorch Veil attack," she said quietly. Cole stopped. His face changed. He didn't deny it. "I did," he said. Virel's claws shook. "You gave the order." "I followed orders," he replied. "It was war. My people were not soldiers. You burned entire nests." "I didn't know," he said. "Not until it was too late." She stood. "You knew what kind of weapons you used." "I knew what they told me," he said. "I was 23. I believed them. I believed the enemy was evil." She turned away. "And now? Am I still your enemy?" Cole's voice dropped. "No. You're my friend." Virel didn't answer. She walked to the airlock. The storm outside screamed, but she opened the door anyway. Cole followed her. "Where are you going?" "Away from you." The wind hit her hard. She pulled her cloak tight but didn't stop. Cole stood at the door, watching her vanish into the red storm. He didn't call her back. He knew trust once broken is not easy to repair. He just whispered to the wind, "I would undo it all, if I could." Far from the shelter, Virel found an old cave. She sat alone. The wind howled outside. Inside, she cried. Not loud, not wild. Just silent tears that soaked her hood. He had touched her, trusted her, and she had trusted him. But now, her heart said two things at once. He's your enemy. He's the only one who ever saw you as more than a monster. Back at the shelter, the storm faded. Cole walked outside. He left a light on, a signal, and on the table, he placed his old officer badge and a single line scratched into the metal. I was wrong. The wind had passed. The sky above the moon was black again, full of stars. Inside the shelter, Cole sat alone. The fire was low. His coat lay folded on the floor. The spot where she used to sleep beside him was cold and empty. She hadn't come back, not since she learned the truth. He didn't sleep, he didn't try to find her, he just waited, because sometimes waiting is all that's left. Far away, Virel stood at the edge of the crater, cloak pulled tight around her shoulders. She had found the old escape pod. Its door was open. One press of a button, and it would take her away from this place. Away from him, the one who had shared his warmth, the one who once gave orders to burn her kind. She stood in the doorway, claws trembling over the controls. Inside her chest, war raged between pain and something else she didn't understand. Not love. Not yet. But something close. She pressed the seat screen. It blinked. Destination, unknown flight ready. She placed her claw on the launch pad, then paused. In her memory, she heard it again. A voice in the night, his voice, calling her name in his sleep. Virel, don't go. She pulled her hand back, closed her eyes and whispered, "Why do you sound more honest in dreams than in war?" She turned from the pod and walked into the dark. Back at the shelter, Cole was still awake. He stared at the badge on the table, the one with his scratched message, "I was wrong." He thought he heard footsteps outside. Then silence. He shook his head. Just wind. He turned off the light, laid back on the floor, alone. But just before his eyes closed, he heard the softest sound. Cloth, movement, a weight beside him, warmth on his arm. He opened his eyes, and there she was, lying next to him, hood off, eyes glowing softly in the dark. She didn't speak. She didn't explain. She just rested her head against his chest, like before, and whispered one sentence. So quiet, he barely heard it. "I'm not ready to forgive, but I'm not ready to leave." Cole placed his hand gently over hers. "No rush," he whispered. And together, under the stars and the weight of the past, they stayed, not healed, not perfect, but together. The ship was ready. The mission was over. The crew had packed, the engines were warm, and the command center was calling for departure. But Varel sat on the edge of the bedroll, the same one she had once been afraid to touch, the one where she first shared warmth with a human, where she'd once frozen in fear, where she now sat in silence, torn between two paths. Outside, Cole stood by the ship ramp. He wasn't looking back. He didn't ask her to come, didn't beg, didn't plead. He just waited, like always. Varel looked down at her hands. Once, these claws had pushed people away. Now, someone had held them without flinching. She looked at the corner of the shelter, at the blanket they had shared, the cracked floor where they'd talked, and the table where she first tasted real food. This wasn't just a shelter anymore. It had become something else, something softer, something rare. She walked to the exit. The crew glanced her way as she stepped into the light. One of them pointed toward a second ship nearby. "That one's for you," he said. "It'll take you anywhere you want. Safe zone, refugee colony, even your homeworld, what's left of it." Varel stared at the ship. The door opened. Empty, clean, cold. She looked back at Cole. He stood still. No words. Just his hand resting on the edge of the ramp. Waiting. Not reaching. Not grabbing. Just open. She took one step toward the empty ship, then stopped. Turned. Walked past it. Toward him. Toward the ramp. Toward the hand that waited. And the man who had changed everything. She reached him, stopped inches away, then slowly rested her hand in his. Not with fear. Not with shame. But choice. Inside the ship there were many beds. She passed them all and walked to the one she knew. His. Later, the ship flew quietly through stars. Varel lay beside him, the blanket warm, her head resting where it always fit. She looked up at him. "You didn't ask me to stay." Cole smiled gently. "I didn't have to." And as the stars passed them by, she closed her eyes. Not alone. Not scared. Not running. Because the bed she once feared had become her home.